Hey, Brad. Thanks for getting this in, and thank you for your questions also in regard to what exactly is butterfly lighting, and I hope I cleared that up for you. I do have some quick suggestions for you about how to achieve more effective butterfly lighting, and that is based on your equipment shot. So what you have here is hard for me to tell, but it looks, no, it's not. Actually, it's very easy for me to tell. You've got your key light. I'm assuming this is your setup that you had for the butterfly lighting. You've got your key light coming from camera left, and it's not, you're not shooting through the umbrella, but you are dispersing the light considerably by shooting up. Oh no, you are shooting up into the umbrella and then reflecting back onto him. And then over here, it looks like you have an additional diffused light. It looks like you're probably shooting through this light here, and then this light right here. And so it's also going to be a bit diffused. So typically with butterfly lighting, and I don't even know why I didn't mention this in my response to you, but at least one of the lights, and usually the key light, is undiffused. It's a hard light. We don't put any sort of light modification tool in front of it. And that is how we get a harder butterfly-shaped shadow underneath our model's nose. It would be a lot harder. So in this case, all of the light that you're using is quite diffused because you're shooting, in this case, up into the umbrella, and the light is bouncing back in multiple directions. And then here, I'm not sure what you're doing here with this one, but it's because you're using the umbrella. Even if you're shooting into the umbrella, it's getting diffused. And if you're shooting even with the umbrella behind the light and the light facing towards him, there's still going to be a lot more light getting bounced around because that big white thing is even there. All right, let's look at your contact sheets. Boy, he's a cutie, isn't he? Oh, okay, so I do see a shift in either you're moving your lights different distances from him or you're changing your exposure settings. So it's hard for me to tell which one's going on here. I really, really, really need you to label your contact sheets with your exposure settings so I can tell the difference. It's as much technical information as you can give me is the best case scenario, because then I can give you very technical feedback, and I think that's what you want. So in this case, I don't have very much technical information, so I'm going to talk to you about aesthetics, except for this. So industrious of you to download an incident light meter app on your Android or whatever that is, and then it's a good light meter in a pinch. However, two things about this. One, the incident, your light meter, your phone, your smartphone, doesn't have a Lumisphere. And so what it's doing is it's like kind of taking an image with its camera, really, and reading, averaging out the light availability in it. And it's easily fooled when there's no Lumisphere. The Lumisphere keeps crazy glare from hitting the lens, which will completely throw off your reading. And two, this is working basically on a completely different paradigm than a light meter. A light meter has light-sensitive cells built into it that really actually are activated. They're kind of like little photodiodes that are actually activated by the light that's hitting them, and it's just not going to work the same way on your camera. Now, in a pinch, these aren't horrible. It's not horrible. If your light meter fails or you can't find it or whatever, this isn't horrible, but it's not a professional tool. It's not as accurate as basically any dedicated light meter, not nearly as accurate as any dedicated light meter. And then lastly, for all the degrees here at AI, all the photo degrees here at AII, you will be using electronic strobe lighting, electronic flash lighting, big flashes, we call them strobes. This isn't going to work for that. So my hope is that you do not attempt to get through the entire class with this meter. You actually purchase a dedicated handheld meter that reads both incident and flash. Just incident if you can't afford the flash right now, but you're going to need one that requires flash. And I'm not too happy to see this as the tool that you're choosing to use. I went ahead on Digital Preview, and I read some threads about it and some reviews, and most photographers agree, like, it's okay, but it's definitely not as robust a tool as a dedicated light meter. Mostly what I saw people saying is they're joking around about, like, yeah, this will impress your client, like you're kind of sort of metering the area, but it's not going to give you as accurate information, especially in incident mode, which I believe is all it can do in as a dedicated meter that has a Lumisphere. The Lumisphere is a really important part of the light meter, and you'll notice that even less expensive light meters have something like a Lumisphere built onto them, so that the light can get dispersed. There's no direct light coming right into the the photocells, and it's going to give you a more accurate reading. Well, I spent a lot of time talking about that, didn't I? But I take this very seriously. This isn't the right tool for the class. Very industrious of you, but not the right tool for the class. And then lastly, my other feedback would be this. Your framing. When you look through your viewfinder, really pay attention and scrutinize what you see. Right here, we have a lot of negative space around your sun's head. It doesn't seem intentional to me. It feels like it just happened. Secondly, we can see this black fabric right behind your sun's head. We can see all the topography in it. Now, I can tell that you made efforts to steam it or iron it or something, but it's never enough. It never is enough when you're using cloth as your backdrop. So what I do is I get my subject to sit many feet away from the backdrop, like 5, 6, 10, 15 if I can handle it. And then I get the backdrop completely out of my depth of field. Nothing is in focus back there. None of this would be in focus, because I'm fine focusing on my subject, and I get them out of the depth of field, and I don't have to worry about it. The other thing that you can do is get paper backdrops. They're easier, man. They're totally easier to deal with. So I feel like the composition is lacking on this one, and the aesthetic is suffering because your model is sitting so close to the backdrop. The lighting, however, is very nice. And can I say that I do see a significant difference in the light quality between the two images, and it does very much change the feel. Great. Perfect. So a lot of my feedback is kind of just FYI. If you want to improve your images, do this. But as far as meeting the requisites of the assignment, you certainly have. And then in this one, I'm not as bothered by the negative space, but it's still quite a bit. This is quite a bit of negative space around our subject for a portrait. But it's a darker exposure, and so we can't see as much of the backdrop, but we still know it's there. We still know he's just pressed right up against it. If there was even an additional 1.5 feet between him and the backdrop, it would be more comfortable to look at. Also, when you give lots of space between your model and your backdrop, then you can light your backdrop independently from your model and do all sorts of cool things. You can use gobos and make crazy shapes on it. You can make a gradient. You can make it pitch black. You can make it bright white, and it doesn't affect the lighting on your model. It's awesome. And then lastly, I would question you why you if you're going for a traditional school portrait, why you cut off so much of his body. I would have expected the camera to be orientated portrait style, and I would have expected to see more of him down here. I would have expected you to turn your camera up on its side and fill the frame with your subject. I'm just curious why you didn't. Okay, so other than that, you did meet the objectives of the assignment. I do need you to always give me your technical information underneath your images in your contact sheet. That's going to be your exposure settings, focal length if you can fit it. It's just a lot though. That gets to where we can't. I can generally tell what focal length you're using just by looking, but your fellow peers might not be able to. So it's helpful to give us that as well, but I won't scrutinize it. And then your enlarged equipment shots are great. Perfect, thank you. Okay, not the right tool for the class, but very industrious. And then lastly, gosh, was there anything else? I think that's about it. I mean, your write-up's very good. Your submission is great, other than you're missing the technical information on your contact sheets. I think that's it. I'll have to get back in here and if I find something else. And then I'll also, you might have already read it, but I will give you a link to the threads that I read about this particular light meter on Digital Preview. I like Digital Preview. I think it's a really good site and lots of useful information there. So I'll give that to you so you can make a discriminating decision as to whether or not you want to, yes you should, want to invest in a dedicated light meter. And if you have one and you just chose not to use it, okay, it's fun to play, but let me know, okay? Thanks, Brad.